going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now,
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, it has been an interesting week. My computer has not been the best. It's actually pretty broken at the moment. It's taking me like 1 to 2 hours to render a 10-minute video, and there's some problems with like the hardware, and I'm not going to bore you with the details, but basically I went to get it fixed. It hasn't been fixed, so I have to take it somewhere else. But nonetheless, we are here, ladies and gents, and I actually managed to attend locals, taking Swordsoul, as you can see here, playing against Dinomorphia. Now, Swordsoul is a deck I wish I'd have played when it was meta. It's very powerful. I like the nature of the deck being a little bit mid-rangey, being able to play a few traps, maybe a few spells you set up, as well as with a couple of monsters on field. It's kind of like the way that I like to play, because it can kind of like bend in both directions, whether it be a bit more conservative or a bit more explosive like some of the combo decks. But nevertheless, we are here against Dinomorphia. Game 1, I just got absolutely destroyed. I think I bricked. Well, I didn't brick. I just didn't open optimally in the first game. I actually had double Imperm, I believe, and he had like Kentragina. He had double Kentragina, actually. He then flipped Summon Limit on me and got Rexterm onto the field. So once that all resolves, ladies and gents, against Dinomorphia, nothing is happening. Game 2, I actually used Dinomorphia knowledge to my ability, basically. So I made him go first, knowing that he would have sided in a lot of going second cards, and it kind of paid off because he ended on a suboptimal board. I think it was like dip loss and something like that. So I proceeded to do a couple of plays. He stopped one of my plays, and it ended up being Moyi beatdown. He did actually get into a Baguska to try and stall out, so he could kind of like just hold on until he drew into a few of his engine, but it was a little bit too late because I managed to just kind of like clear his field and then end up OTKing him. In game 3, he did go first, but he didn't open optimally. I believe I just kind of like dwindled a lot of his resources. I think he Solemn Striked my Vishuda summon, which probably would have been correct if he'd have known what the rest of my hand was, but that kind of like just burnt through a lot of his back row, and it ended up me just going into one of my synchro monsters. It might have even been Baron de Fleur, to be honest, and just being able to just kind of like pop off and then put pressure on his field, because once he's blown through a number of his negates, ladies and gents, he's kind of stuck there. But nonetheless, I managed to take this game. Game 1 goes to me. On to the next one. So coming into round 2, ladies and gents, I played against Tearalements, which was an interesting matchup, and if I haven't said it already, Swordsoul doesn't really match up against the new decks in terms of like power scaling, because it's a little bit underpowered compared to like Tearalements and Sprites, and it definitely showed in this. Like, I managed to go first. I put up a half decent board with quite a few interruptions, which I burnt through on his turn. I think I used like Blackout. I had a Shatana engraved, so if my monk got popped, it would pop a card. I had a Shijao on field. I actually had an Infinite Impermanence set. It was absolutely crazy. Like, he managed to play through all those resources. I dwindled him down, and then he managed to top deck a Rhino Heart for turn, which was absolutely crazy, which meant that he was just able to just completely snowball advantage back into his favor. So I ended up losing that. Game 2, I ended up going second, trying to be a little bit cocky, hoping to draw into my side deck by going second and break a board, because I know Tenyi Swordsoul can go second very well, but it wasn't to be. He actually just popped off, ended on a board of like Winder, and I think it was like Dragos to Paleo or something, and I just literally couldn't do anything. I got a normal tuna monster out via, I think it was like Moyi's effect, and that was it, ladies and gents. My turn was done, dusted, over. There's not a lot I could have done. I did have Desires, which he managed to Ash, which is crazy. He actually drew Ash in a deck that doesn't naturally play that many hand traps, so it was what it was, ladies and gents. I got clapped by Tearalements, nothing more to say. In terms of this locals, it's a little bit interesting because this week, well, here when I'm playing, a lot of the players are away at the Euros, so yeah, it's interesting to see where they play. So hopefully by next week it should be back to normal in terms of the player cap, because I think there was only like 9 of us, I believe. But yeah, anyway, I lost round 2. Okay, ladies and gents, it is the end of round, where are we? Round 2, and I'm currently X-1. I've won 1, I've lost 1. I got smacked against Tearalements, literally win that game 2. I was trying to be a bit cocky. I let my opponent go first, thinking I could draw into my side deck, which did not happen. And then game 1, it was super grindy. I managed to blow through a lot of his resources, and actually just top deck Rhino Heart, and then that just literally snowballed out of control. I had so little advantage compared to him. So we'll see how it goes, ladies and gents. On to the next round. Peace.
And also,
nope. No, a mass token.
someone told me they were like, it's a slime token.
What the? Got it. Okay, ladies and gents, coming into round 3, and I'm actually playing against Despia, which is a nice little throwback to the previous format where Despia and Swordsoul were at the top of the meta. But I'm playing against Despia, and a very interesting match. So in game 1, he managed to brick, he managed to go first. He ended on set 1 pass. I believe he just had a couple of hand traps and maybe like a dart ruler no more or something like that in hand. So as it rolls to my turn, I go to Mo Yi and I get hit with a Gamma, so my turn effectively stopped right there. I did have a Swordsoul Summit in hand, which was interesting. Something that's not really common in a lot of the Swordsoul decks, but I actually value the 1 copy of Summit. The amount of times it saved me in this tournament, just being able to recur something from grave. But anyway, hit me with the Gamma, ended up setting 3 cards and passing turn, 2 of them being imperm. So he goes into his Aluba. Obviously if Aluba resolves, knowing what his hand could have been, it would have just meant that he could have snowballed out of control. So I impermed the Aluba. He did have the materials to be able to go into a Querites. He poked me with Querites and then used the rest of the materials to go into a Dragos Tepalia, which arguably would have been correct, mainly because it's a little bit of a negate, but obviously I had the imperm set. There could have been an argument for Masquerade, but it is what it is. So rolling back round to my turn, I'm actually able to just combo off and just basically out advantage him, basically mainly due to the fact that I had Summit as well as I think a top deck to Taye or something like that, and he Called by the Grave to Taye, which wasn't a problem because I still got the search off Shija, which meant that I was able to just combo off and just basically out resource my opponent. Game 2 was interesting. Got to a mad board state. I think I tried to blackout and he branded him red to try and dodge the blackout, or something along those lines. But I asked for the target for blackout to try and make him think that I had the DD Crow in hand, which kind of forced him to change his line actually, and he decided to change his target for branded in red to add back something else, which meant that I was able to kind of like dodge a few effects because I impermed the Aluba in that chain, and then he couldn't Guardian Chimera because I didn't have any cards on field, so he couldn't pop and he couldn't draw, which was a little bit of a shame, and he was out of resources at that point. So I managed to then just basically combo off and then take that game. I beat over his Guardian Chimera with Cheng Ying, I believe, and then I just had too much advantage from there. So managed to win round 3, which was a interesting throwback to just a couple of months ago actually. So into round 4, ladies and gents, the penultimate round. I played against Floowandereeze. You love to hate them. I actually really like the deck for what they are. I know a lot of people hate them and say they get carried by a barrier statue, they're annoying, they're very linear, very easy to play. But I like the fact that it's a deck that's really unique. There's no other deck that really normal summons the way that Floowandereeze does, and the way that it kind of like chain blocks, doesn't care about his graveyard. I think it's quite refreshing to have just something different in the format. But nonetheless, it was a super duper long grindy game 1. I should have scooped a long time ago. I did make a cosmic error in the terms of I went into Baxia and I put him in attack position and tried to activate his effect, and obviously Empen is on the field. I might have been able to clear a few resources, mainly map and Empen. Unfortunately, that misplay came back to haunt me, as well as him having just like a million resources in hand. He had Dart Ruler, he had everything basically. So I managed to lose that game 1, meaning that we was a bit strapped for time. Game 2, I actually went first. I actually set up a half decent board. I did have the anti-spell fragrance, which I flipped, which slowed him down a little bit. He did actually evenly match me, but when it rolled around back to my turn, I had enough resources in hand to just kind of like build another board basically. So he ended up scooping that pretty prematurely. He might have actually been able to break through, but is what it is. Then game 3 actually was right down to the wire. I think we had like a minute or like 45 seconds or something ridiculous like that left. He went first. I ashed his Rabina. He couldn't really do much after his Rabina got ashed because of the way his hand was. And then when it rolled around to my turn, I actually got 1200 burn damage through Long Young, and I did a little bit of battle damage. And then by the time I'd finished doing what I was doing, it was timing around. So I actually managed to win in time, which was crazy, beating Floowandereeze, going second in game 1, which is a little bit unusual. But ladies and gents, that's how it is sometimes. I managed to finish with a record, I believe it was like X-1. So yeah, pretty happy all around. Okay, ladies and gents, we are back. Games were coming thick and fast, so I didn't really have much time to kind of like film between rounds, so it was really busy. But nonetheless, I managed to finish with a record of X-1 playing Swordsoul nonetheless. Hold on, let me just put the light on. Oh, that's better. Yeah, I'm back in my car, and yeah, it was an interesting locals. Obviously, it's the first time I've actually played Swordsoul. I've seen it played a load of times, but I never actually played the deck myself, and I had so much fun playing the deck. Like, it was absolutely ridiculous. Like, I just love all the interactions it has. I'm gonna be honest, it's not as strong as some of the tier 1 decks that we're seeing at the moment. Like, Sprite outpaces it. I lost the Tearalements, as you've seen in some of the footage. It was absolutely crazy, but it still can hold its own, and with the right side deck techs, you can still do a lot of stuff. So I'll put my matchups on screen for you guys because I can't remember off the top of the head. All I know is that my final game I played against Floowandereeze, and we was grinding for so long, it was crazy. Like, but I managed to lose game 1. He went first. He had too much follow-up, double dart ruler, had barrier statue, loads of setup, M-pen. I made a critical mistake. I summoned Baxia in attack position with M-pen on the field, and I went to use its effect, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. But nonetheless, I managed to win game 2 because he scooped, and then game 3, I just ashed his Rabina, and I just had too much follow-up, too much combo. I would have done too much damage, and there was only like 45 seconds left on the round. So it was interesting. I managed to come 3rd overall. I think there's only 9 players, so there was a couple of us that top 1, 2 and 3 that was actually on a record of X1, which it is what it is. This locals was a little bit more quiet, mainly because a lot of the people that normally attend locals have actually gone to Euros, so it's interesting to say the least. But anyway, ladies and gents, thoroughly love the deck, and I will be back to playing punks at some point once I get my other ogre dance. And yeah, but Swordsoul, ladies and gents, thoroughly enjoy. Probably gonna try and take it to another locals if I can make it this weekend. But we find ourselves at the end of another video. As always, if you did enjoy this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.